Adar, Abhinandan, Abhar. Namaskar and a very good evening to all the viewers. This is Arpita Srivastav Rai welcoming you all to this Atmanirbhar Bharat Vocational Learning Program organized by us with the collaborators and the partners enablers. Well, as you all know that we, the change makers, always strive for the excellence in our program and are yet present to highlight about the importance and the introductions of the CSR. So today, the highlights of the sessions will be the new laws and amendments by Advocate Ramarao Ji and the CSR myths by Mr. Pradeep Singh. Well, this was the highlight. Now, today I'm going to start the session with something very new and innovative. So here I'm starting the session with an interpretation. आपके समक्ष प्रस्तुत है विचारों के मंथन की अभिव्यक्ति। निर्माणों के पावन युग में हम चरित्र निर्माण न भूलें, स्वार्थ साधना की आंधी में वसुधा का कल्याण न भूलें। माना आगम आगाध सिंधु है, संघर्षों का पार नहीं है, किंतु डूबना मझधारों के साहस को स्वीकार नहीं है। जटिल समस्या सुलझाने को नूतन अनुसंधान न भूलें। शील विनय आदर्श श्वेत तार बिना संघार नहीं है। शिक्षा या स्वर साध सकेगी यदि नैतिक आधार नहीं है। कृति कुमुदी की गरिमा में संस्कृति का सम्मान न भूलें। आविष्कारों की कृतियों में यदि मानव का प्यार नहीं है। सृजहीन विज्ञान व्यर्थ है, प्राणी का उपकार नहीं है। भौतिकता के उत्थानों में जीवन का उत्थान न भूलें। Thanks for hearing that inspirational note. Now, we will have our traditional auspicious lamp lighting ceremony as a tribute to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, blessing all humanity by our honorable chief guest, Professor B.S. Satya, who is the founder and the Vice Chancellor of C.V. Raman Global University. Glad to have you on board with us, sir. Now I would request my IT team to kindly play the video. Thanks, IT team, for that video. Well, CSR is not a particular program. It is what we do every day, maximizing positive impact and minimizing negative impact. And to throw light on this, we are privileged and honored to have our honorable chief guest, Professor B.S. Narayanaji, with us. Before I call upon Sir for his inaugural address, I would seek his permission to read his profile to our viewers. Allow me to read your profile, sir.
Well, maybe just brief that I am an academic.
Sure, sir. Well, Professor B.S. Satyanarayana holds a PD in electric engineer from Cambridge University, UK. He currently heads the C.V. Raman Global University as the founder vice chancellor. He has worked in industry, research and development, academic institutions, and on policy planning for over 35 years in India, Japan, UK, and with partners in USA, EU, Korea, Singapore, and Russia. He currently heads C.V. Raman Global University as the founder vice chancellor. Other organization works includes National Physical Laboratory, Kurukshetra University, Manipal University, Industrial Academic Collaboration Center, Kochi University of Technical, Japan, and STO Office, US Embassy, India. He has worked in India, Japan, UK with many international partners. He has established himself as an innovator, strategic and transformational change leader, institution and team builder, mentor, working with multidisciplinary system design thinking approach with a focus on sustainable and inclusive department. In the last 10 years, alone in Indian academies, he has strived to create extensive industry academic collaborations, develop a unique pedagogy based on seamless linking teaching, learning, experimental learning, research, industry, and societal engagement. He has led to linking of knowledge, skills leading to competence, employability, innovation, and entrepreneurship in line with expectation to NEP 2020 and STIP 2020. He has also been involved in creating many first of its kinds technologies in India and abroad. Well, some of his awards and recognitions that I would love my viewers to know about it. Well, some of them I would like to read is Exceptional Academy Leadership Award 2017 from Federation of Work Academy, Business World and Education, post at the 8th National Education Leadership Conclave in New Delhi 2017. Tarana MathWorks Best Vice Chancellor Award 2017 by the Indian Engineering Educator and Administrator Conferences. Intel India's commendation contribution to incredible 20 years of developing technology ecosystem in 2018. Best Educational Administrator for Sustainable Industry Institute Partnership, SIIP in 2016. Texas Instrument Commendation for nurturing innovation and fostering a thriving ecosystem, bridging government, industry, and academia in 2016. Wipro Ethon Award for Sustainability 2014 and Skill Tree Education Environment of India 2013. Dharamveer Chakra Medal, Cognizant RBC Best Research Award Global Medal 2012. Philips Iden Award for Noble Medical Instrument 2007. CIS CON Best Paper Award for his work on noble room temperature growth nanocarbons of vacuum nanoelectronic based implementation 2007. Best paper Asia Society for Information Display. Wow, what a loads of applause, sir. So now I won't take much of time. Welcome once again, sir, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Pradeep Singh for getting in touch with me, and thanks, Ms. Arpita, for, very elaborate introduction. Thanks very much. And I think CSIR and sustainable development, I think, is something very close to my heart. And I'm happy to see that this conference is looking at it in a very holistic way. CSR doesn't mean any charity as far as I see it. It is a mutual enabling of everyone for the society's well-being, both whether it's a corporate, whether it's an individual, whether it is an academic institution, R&D or NGO. I think each of us facilitating the other with our skill and competence to see that mutually we all go together, or equitable growth for all. I'm sure, because you're all, again, over the next 5 days, you're talking of various sustainable development goals. I'll not elaborate on it, but it is suffice to say that, again, maybe it has become fashion in the last 5 to 10 years for us to talk about, and companies are seriously looking at it in the last couple of years. Whereas, say, if you look at 2019-20, maybe Indian companies, the top 100 companies should have spent something like 15,000 crores on CSR, as per their own and government calculation. So, but these are only happening and talking now. But I think in India, CSR has been a tradition. It's more glorified now because international, or whether it is a Bill Gates or Warren Buffett and others, and of course now whether Azim Premji to Infosys and other people, or even see all the major corporations today have huge amount of CSR or sustainable, societal engagement. It's become popular, but then it has always been there in our country. When kings or benevolent people gave money to the temple, and the temple was a holistic cultural, living entity, whether it was business, whether it was education, whether it's art and culture, or even for people who used to come and travel, because again, from Hyeonsang to Fahian, or even to Marco Polo and Mark Twain, you see that Indian history had a tradition where it was very safe and convenient, a rich country. People were sharing, it was the people were always happy and content, and were very happy to share. That's why I think the CSR philosophy is nested in what Mahatma Gandhi said: there is always enough for everybody's need, but not enough for even one man's greed. And so that was the basic philosophy, that we accepted anybody's point of view. We were willing to share. And there, as I said, the temples, therefore, whether it was food, the prasada in the temple was such that it was anybody who came there, whether without food or even traveling and who couldn't do something, he could get his food. So even today, we don't talk about it, but there are so many chowtries or dharmashalas all across the country and temples where so many people, though we did not even have social security, in India, millions and millions of people have been enabled in the society, though we never called it seriously as CSR. But then now that the Companies Act has come, it has defined something about the need for CSR, and more variations have come in. More enabling is being, again, with further modification, enabled through the article of CSR, the law. I think there has been more awareness of it. And so I just want to have, because you are looking at whether it is a vocational learning, whether it is public policy, research, internship, and overall, collaborate, engagement, and even, advocacy. Writing in all its formats as some of the key ways of educating and enforcing or facilitating or encouraging people for CSR. I just want to showcase some example of how all of this, I have had the opportunity to be engaged over the last 10 to 15 years at least, or even earlier. So though it was not exactly called CSR, and so I think it was nice for me to have a platform to share that everything under CSR that is being decided as law is feasible, implementable, and actually things are happening. So as I said, I just want to showcase some examples. Forgetting about whatever I said about history, practically today, and CSR is happening, and Sustainable Development Goal. Again, the whole world is looking at it now, especially when you look at it in terms of even the circular economy requirements. I think there's a huge need for, society, industry, and all stakeholders working together. And I think it's a win-win proposition if all of us could. So if some company is doing a CSR, and instead of they implementing it themselves, say if they could engage with a local academic institution and an NGO, then the CSR activity could be so planned that it could even it could be water management, waste management, planting of tree, but you could literally bring in whole lot of technology and do it at a suboptimal cost by working with an NGO and an academic institution, so that students, again, through their various requirements, participate in it. But it can also build in knowledge from artificial intelligence, machine learning, manufacturing, all sorts of parameters. We have been able to showcase that while doing CSR, a company actually, though it is not supposed to profit, but a well-designed system and design thinking enabled CSR can actually lead to human resource building, society equally, participating in the growth, and also capacity building in terms of R&D for the future can happen. And so these are some of the examples I want to share. So to showcase that everything is feasible. For example, say we have been involved with companies and their interest to contribute to society. So, when I came back from Japan, and I was involved in setting up an innovation center in Manipal. So there we worked with companies from Intel to Philips to many smaller companies, and also sort of NGOs to organizations like Selco, who were in again a small company involved in innovative lighting solutions without government aid, using solar, and they have maybe enabled over 1 million houses without government aid, and even in many villages where there was no power, no electrical connectivity. So it was very nice that we could contribute in a small way, working with something called Bharatiya Vidya Trust, which was there in Manipal. Or we worked for developing maybe a handheld tool which could possibly detect oral cancer without getting a lesion in the mouth. When you go a primary healthcare, can go and look at it during regular health check. Or looking at inexpensive. I mean, of course, today there are many, dime a dozen, but in those days we were with the doctors and also leveraging the local, I mean, 6 rural centers of Manipal Hospital could develop or test aspects of, for a multinational company, a pocket held ECG, a 3-lead ECG, so that proactive healthcare could be taken, or many ideas for healthcare, telemedicine were practiced. And this sort of, again, universities from Holland, India, we all work together to look at how can we make affordable medicine. Or again, for example, one of the products we developed was in those days a chula, which could be smokeless chula, but at the same time, I mean, it would also, leverage cutting edge technology from aerospace technology to energy harvesting and scavenging. And we demonstrated it at whatever cost level in those days Philip was looking to do it as a charitable activity. But when they developed it and brought it to the market, of course, the rich people took it as a very good, cooking tool for barbecue in their houses, rather than truly going for the poor people it was meant to. But again, in that we worked with so many rural people to look at how could we bring in a fine, affordable, and working with any type of biomass. So therefore a CSR contribution for a social engagement, working with rural activities, simultaneously training students for cutting edge technology. Or similarly, I mean, when we were in RV, for example, to find the cost of retrofitting for waste management or water treatment. KPMG just gave a very small amount of grant of say 4 to 5 lakhs, but we leveraged it to retrofit a whole campus in terms of water treatment and waste treatment management by engaging students, assignments, projects. And it was a great education from design to implementation, and also cost optimization, along with even simulation capability done when a company wanted to do a small amount of CSR, academic institution. And then for learning some of the process, we at least work with 10 different NGOs. So I just thought I will share some of this because you are looking at a holistic engagement, saying there are enough role models to say that wide range of societal engagement and transformation can happen at a very affordable cost with all people now. And some of the students have become entrepreneurs. They have got great jobs. The NGOs have got greater mobility, I mean, both visibility and capability to do more service. And of course, I mean, for example, whether for a KPMG, 5-10 lakhs is next to nothing. I mean, but at the same time, it enabled thousands of people, and also a permanent education process in an academic institution that in 5 years, we became nearly 90%. I mean, of course, we also did other things with sustainability, that whether it's water, waste management, energy optimization with clean energy, and that we're nearly about 90%, if not zero energy, zero water, zero waste, 90% enabling, and about 40% groundwater rising happened because of water harvesting alone. So this, I just wanted to share some of this to say that there is a huge amount of potential if all of us work together. And therefore, everything that you're talking about, whether it's vocational learning, public policy, research, internship program, content writing, for example, just vocational education. We as a university here in C.V. Raman Global University today, we are starting to work, of course, on the Deen Dayal Upadhyay skilling program, where we work with thousands of children from Odisha, Jharkhand, Bihar, and other nearby areas, and they are being skilled for employability. At the same time, the management, I mean, the founder, Mr. Sanjeev Kumar Raut, found that, I mean, in some program, there was a skilling event, a girl got selected, but suddenly her parents had gone, died, and she did not know whether she could even continue her education. He said, I will fund your education in a national skilling, because we had invested in skilling, about 25 centers for future skill. So he said, I will find your education in IIT or wherever she was doing that for remaining period. But with that, we thought, then we have now today we are educating 25 girl child and looking at creating 1,000 children who have homeless or who do not have parents to support, or only a mother to support without income. And so these are people from all sorts of strata of society. We have started them from school. As soon as they pass the school, ITI to diploma, and depending on their performance, I mean, they are also coming into engineering or wherever they want to. And some of them within the ITI diploma itself, they have been trained on skilling. They have won national awards. And yesterday alone, the Odisha state skilling development competition concluded. 38 students from Raman Education Society, I mean, our engineering college to diploma and polytechnic won gold, silver. And so now, and we are mentioning they also can go to higher level. Even they get trained because a few of them are even selected last time. And first Indian gold medal in skilling was won by C.V. Raman when even corporate companies like Honda, Maruti, Hero, BHEL also participate. India had never won a gold in water technology in 2019 was won by C.V. Raman Global University student. And so now many of them are even selected for some of the students for the 2022 World Skills in China. And many of them who are even selected already have got very good jobs. And so the point is, I see that it's a very interesting proposition that you have taken up to look at it in a holistic way. And so it's, and just again, sorry to give some more example because people, you don't read about them much. And I was in the CII environment panel from 2010 to even now I have continued to be there in Bangalore. So we have worked with so many corporates and their programs are helping them carry out their programs. And whereas, for example, you see BML Munjal University, we got close to 20 crores of CSR grants from multiple people to create next generation facility for skilling in advanced manufacturing, to actually fabricating some form of integrated, which we don't even teach in IITs and IISc, to fabricate integrated circuit on glass, paper, plastic for sensors, which could help environment, water, health, food quality. And also equally to waste and other biogas production and all that. So the key point, as I said, I wanted to convey was that CSR is a very huge enabler of transformation. It could truly bring in equity, by partnership for all and growth. And any company, if it seriously engages, I'm sure there is, for example, there's a company called Kenna Metal in Bangalore, and they had huge amount of water problems. And once they started water harvesting, working with a local innovator who was working on harvesting, today the whole region has huge amount of water surplus. I mean, by bringing in tens of lorries every day, today they are able to supply water to all their region around in that Bangalore-Tumkur highway. And so therefore we see CSR, and plus today, because vocational education and government also has many schemes, if they can be linked and corporate CSR can come in, so and rather than fly-by-night operators fleecing people, because that's also parallelly happening in vocational education in many places. If all this can combine together, I believe it's a huge opportunity for win-win enabling of the society. And as we said, bringing, and also advocacy for sustainability and circular economy, a lot of scope for innovation, entrepreneurship. And therefore, as again, we said in the beginning, there is enough for everybody's need, but never enough even for one man's greed, as Mahatma Gandhi said. If we could seriously work on CSR and truly bring in all stakeholders together at a suboptimal cost, with or without even government engagement, we could cause transformational change in the region around us. I mean, in terms of environment, water, waste management, in terms of employability, to even creating entrepreneurial ecosystem, because they all can self-sustain and feed into each other as a loop, and it could be a win-win opportunity. Therefore, I say CSR with an open mind and system design thinking and collaborative participation from all stakeholders is opportunities unlimited. If anything can limit us, it's just our imagination. So I'm very happy to see that you are organizing a conference over 10 days, looking at its various aspects. If at all we can be of, I do not know how you had me as somebody to come and talk about CSR here, but we'll be very happy to be associated with all of you. And I can say that at least about 1,000 crores of infrastructure and transformation we have been able to create in 10 years without maybe even a publicity. So it's a huge opportunity, and let us all work towards the transformation as even the sustainable goals are looking at it. But as I said, it has always been a process in this country. Somewhere we lost our culture, history, ethos, and even the integrity of and sharing. But maybe once again, we truly come into this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam or Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Thank you very much once again for having me. Have a great conference, and maybe you all together make huge transformational change to this country. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, sir, for that inspirational speech. Truly commendable, sir, for your valuable time. And now I would request Pradeep ji to say a few words.
Thank you, Arpita ji, and thank you to honorable chief guest of today's, Dr. Satya Narayanaji. It was wonderful to listen to you how you have narrated the way we have started the CSR, which has been now since 2014 is the law. But of course, the philanthropy is our culture. That is what the Indian ethos are. We are always, even before the meeting, I was discussing with Arpita for the same. Although it's in our culture that philanthropy is there. It's never been the law. It's been people-centric driven, people-driven actually activities which we are doing. And of course, how we have created is because I and Arpita ji both are the CSR professionals, and we were actually somehow missing out that NGOs and people, those who are working for the social development sectors, they are somehow missing certain things which are actually very much required for CSR implementation. There are so many myths, so many misconceptions among people, among students, even among those who are working for those, even among the NGOs also. So that is why we have created. I'm thankful for you and your institution to give your time and give your, of course, tremendous energy to us. These speeches and these, of course, learnings on CSR and sustainability, how the holistic development can be created through the examples and through the case studies. That is tremendous, actually, I must say, amazing for all of us. You keep on interacting with us. We are actually into this for next 10 days. Next 10 days, we are there for that. And we are taking each and every segment of CSR. Whatever is there in the CSR, we are discussing on this. So thank you to all. And thank you to our chief guest, sir. I need to present certificate of gratitude to you. And I request Arpita ji to carry on so that I can share by the time certificate of gratitude, sir. You can please carry on.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Pradeep ji. Well, we were very much enlightened by sir's speech. So, you know, it makes you conscious when you have such a dignified person on your forum, you know, so you are really short of words what to talk about. But well, as the subject is of CSR, so I thought of why not to quote some of the, you know, people saying about the CSR. So, well, I would love to quote one of the definitions of the CSR. Well, this definition has been given by DePaul University in 1997, when he said that companies with a defined corporate commitment to ethical principle do better financially than companies that don't. So this was the definition given by him, as sir is from the university, so I thought of quoting this. So now, can we have our certificate displayed, Pradeep ji?
Yeah, it is there. It is already there on the board. Thanks to sir, and
sir.
thanks to thank you for being with us.
Anyway,
it was wonderful to actually be with us and mentor us on your learnings about how to achieve the best CSR outcomes with a holistic.
We'll be happy to share. Actually, I mean, 2 years before, before joining CV Raman Global University, I was sort of running my own consultancy, telling companies how, I mean, it could both be an ROI and, again, as we said, creating a complete ecosystem for enabling CSR with government or NGO, to also creating their own HR requirement and human resource requirement to, I mean, strategic R&D. How if they could truly, and I'm sorry to say, at that time, many companies, I mean, even when we enabled some of the CSR programs at CI, we found that it was more of a branding label than still seriously integrated into strategic plan in terms of holistic enabling, both because today, especially as the divide, the rich and the poor divide is expanding, and so many concerns are coming about environment and water, and that companies are causing problem. So, I mean, we said this could all be tackled if we holistically work and leverage CSR, and it's exponential, because every 1 rupee, if it effectively planned and implemented, has an exponential effect in cost and kind, with non-tangible benefits way beyond the cost factor. And some of maybe companies where maybe I was foolishly saying some idiotic things and people couldn't understand. Not many companies came forward to give us a consultancy. That's a different thing. But I believe it will happen in the near future. So I'll be very happy to be associated with any of you if you think we can work in any possible way, or even again in a suboptimal cost, leverage our university facilities for any developmental or even detailed study. Because, for example, now we have made it mandatory in our curriculum that students have to do every semester or every year some assignments and project case-based study where they have to look at policy, technology, societal requirements all in an integrated way, so that all one is student is aware of innovation opportunities or business of service opportunities, and faculty can look at serious research to even policy enabling data and survey and things like that. So we look forward to even work. These are all part of our process now. Students start with a system and design thinking course in the very first year, irrespective of their program, along with their subjects, and do a project-based activity where they will have to make something happen or implement a service or a plan end to end. To understand that everything is multidisciplinary, and without looking at society, I cannot by myself do a product or technology. And I'm sorry for, I think I'm going beyond my brief speaking a bit more, but I want to call the transformational innovation, the device for it, that whatever we do, it has to have a desirability. Mandatorily, it should have inclusivity. And of course, it should be viable. Technologically, it has to be viable. And even more effective, it has to have economic feasibility has to be built in, and above all, sustainability built in. So I say the device for transformational innovation, I call them as a formula to look at any issue. And with that process, we try to work. Anyway, thank you. I will not take more of your time. I think I already exceeded my brief, because it's get excited to see that you're all working at such an interesting area, and we'll be happy to be working with you. Thank you very much.
Sir, I'm happy to actually give how we have worked on this particular thing. We keep on working with on the internship for the students, for colleges and for institutions. Just now we have completed one of the internship where the 3 universities were there. NMITD Mumbai was there, UPS Dehradun was there, and Avnash Coimbatore was there. And somewhere 75 students were there. All were learning of course, how to go for the public policy, how to framework, how to go for the public policy. And in that particular public policy assignments were there. There were 6 of the assignments where we would talk about the SDGs. The very first assignment was the SDG, and we talk about even the design thinking. So students are very much eager to learn on how to go for public policy, how to go for these innovations, the design thinking, and of course the SDG. Even I must say here or inform to all that our younger generation are not at all aware about the SDGs as if now. So we need to create an ecosystem so that they can go for it. And for that reason, we have actually collaborated with one of the UNACC council for making people and students to learn. And I'm happy, of course, if we get some chance with your institution also to go on for any kind of internship, either the public policy or SDGs, or even otherwise also, that we are catering on. So thank you to all.
Thank you very much. So have a great conference, and look forward to learning, and maybe if you can share some of the learnings of the conference, it will be great so that we can learn from it. And as I said in the beginning, we are happy to work both as an individual or as an institution, or even bring in other people depending on the need. It will be our pleasure. Have a great conference, and hope this leads to growth from strength to strength. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So excuse me, I will have to leave now. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So now I need to present how exactly the conference will go on. So I'm sharing the details about the conference, how exactly the conference are, what all we are actually covering up in the conference. Let me share the speakers list first here, who all will be in our this 10 days presentation, who all will be the part of this particular conference. Let me give a brief. Starting with our chief guest, he joined us today and he enlightened us today's meet, that is inaugural speech. Moving forward, Dr. Satya will be there. She will be actually delivering on how the outcomes are there, and how there are certain segments on which social impact indicators are working under the CSR. What are all those indicators, and how we can actually frame out on those things. Blessed, Dr. Simani will be there. She's a director in one of the institution in Sardar Patel University. She is heading the department also, and she is working for CSR for you can say 15 plus years. So she will be guiding us on need assessment, and moving on to Dr. Parvati, she will be taking on how to go and write for a CSR journals, and she will be heading the evaluation of all those CSR journals too. Next on, Advocate Ramaraju is there. Today he will be guiding on the CSR law, the new law, and later on he will be there with us to take on the social stock exchange, how the social stock exchange is working. Next is our host and of course CSR professional. So he is working since last 15 years with Vocat Foundation for making how to go for funding of the CSRs as an CXO level with the Srivastava. She keeps on enlightening us on the CSR. Very young, talented Sanchita will be there. She will be guiding us how to go for an evaluation of pitching, that is for the CSR proposal, how to go for it. Mr. Jarmaje will be there. He will be joining us on 30th. He will be taking on care of all the compliances, how the compliances are working, and how exactly those policies and laws are there, which is talking about 12A, ATG, and the new law, of course, of FCRA. Because more or less people are looking out for this, but there are so many impediments on this, and people are struggling. So we need to actually support them. Next comes Pratna will be there. Ms. Pratna will be there with us. She will be guiding us how the funding is coming up, and how other means are there by which we can actually generate the fund for making our projects to work on. This one is me. Of course, I will be there with you to support all on this. And then Meghnaji will be there with us. Meghnaji will be guiding us how to go for need assessment and of course the baseline survey. She is heading one of the startup also, that is Swan. Swan is if we are skilled workforce advancing nation. She is working for Himachal Pradesh and she is working across India, of course, for the same. And some of our learning partners will be there. These learning partners will be actually presenting their proposals or they are presenting their CSR journals on that. So Vinita will be there, Mr. Vinay will be there, Ms. Samna will be there, Vani Madam will be there, and so on. So the list is so long. So here I am actually stopping how we are going ahead for this particular presentation and handing over to our host and of course Ms. Arpita ji to take on how to go for CSR, the introduction of CSR, and then she will hand over to Advocate Ramarao ji. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pradeep ji. Well, so let's start the session, right? We are discussing such an important topic that is CSR, that stands for Corporate Social Responsibility. So as a layman, one can ask what it is, right? So the corporate social responsibility is the continuous commitment by business to have and behave in an ethical and contribute to economic development while improving the quality of life of the workforce and their families, as well as the local community and society at large. So as per, I would love to quote, because he's the one who has designed the CSR pyramid. His name is Mr. B. Carroll, and he has defined corporate social responsibility as it's a responsibility involved the conduct of a business so that it is economically profitable, law-abiding, ethical, and social supportive. To be socially responsible, this means that profitability and obedience to the law are foremost condition when discussing the firm ethics and the extent to which it supports the society in which it exists with contribution of money, time, and talent. See, I would like to tell you that corporate social responsibility revolves with three things. If you ask me personally an equation that I can summarize that what it revolves around, it will be always three P's, It will be people, planet, profits. That's how it revolves around. So how this came into the picture? What was the origin of the CSR, right? So the forefather, you can say, or who was the one who introduced this concept was Mr. Howard Bowen, when he was an American economist and the president of the University of Iowa. He coined the concept of corporate social responsibility, where he defined it as the obligation of businessmen to pursue those policies, to make those decisions, and to allow those lines of actions which are desirable in terms of the objectives and the value of the society. Where people generally know about him that he made a CSR pyramid that is called Harold CSR Pyramid, where he has divided into 4 parameters. The first was the philanthropic responsibilities, that is to be to good corporate citizenship. The second was ethical responsibilities, where he says that be ethical, obligation to do what is right and fair and avoid harm. The third was the legal responsibilities, where one needs to obey the laws. Law is society's codification of right and wrong. And the last was economic responsibilities, that is to be profitable, the foundation by which all others rest. Now, that's what I would like again now to highlight, that as a corporate social responsibility, why we require this, or one can ask why it is required. It is required in the society or in the ecosystem because of 3 reasons. And those reasons are, as I earlier said, that it revolves around with 3 Ps. So in that way, it revolves around with 3 disciplines, that is financial discipline, social discipline, and environmental responsibility. So that's why it is required. So what is the importance of CSR? Why a person needs it or the society needs it? So there are different parameters which revolve around this concept. And what are those parameters? That is the environmental, social, and government issues, corporate accountability, responsible investments, responsible business, corporate sustainability, corporate citizenship, again the sustainability, corporate responsibility, triple bottom line, and creating shared value. So 6 characteristics of the CSR. Now I would like to present with these 6 characteristics the characterization and the description of this concept. So once you talk about the characterization, it is the license to operate. Now, what is that? It is the long-term business investments, vehicle for achieving goals and reputation, activity to avoid exposure to risk unnecessary outsider institutions, economic and constructive, and axmoral. Well, if you see the descriptive side of it, CSR is a condition of doing business. Find the most effective way to meet the stakeholders' requirement, like research and development, where CSR improves the business environment for future progress, stronger customer loyalty, more committed employees, avoid being single or too exposed to companies, reforming the economic foundation, viability of the communities in which it operates. And that's how companies have decided to include the shareholder well. So the activities nowadays, if you talk about what top brands have in their mind while implementing CSR, what they keep in mind, So the best corporate social responsibility activities by top brands that they do, keeping in mind what are those criterias, are that first, you need to have an ethics for which you have to be responsible, and you need to see the reactions in the market. And for that, you need to be sincere, need to have a long-term goals, and need to utilize the resources in a sustainable way. So what are the, you may say, the areas or the sectors where CSR is implementable? So here, what is amended, I would like to highlight that what kind of activities or development sectors are there in CSR? The first will be the health, where the eradication of hunger, poverty, malnutrition, safe drinking water, or sanitation could be covered. The second is education. Again, education which covers the differently abled and the livelihood. Then the rural development, environmental and animal welfare, conservation of resources, Swachh Bharat Kosh, Clean India. Any other fund you may ask? Gender equality, women empowerment, old age homes, reducing inequalities, Prime Minister National Relief Fund, encouraging sports, heritage, art and culture, slum area development, Clean Ganga Fund, and other sectors, technology incubators and benefits to armed. So now one can ask, because as an NGO, what are the documents required for a CSR project an organization should keep in mind? So organization related, the documents that you require will be the name of the organization or the location, implementing bodies, person to contact, email IDs, websites, registrations, registration number, and tax exemptions under. The second will be project related. In project related, one needs to keep in mind the title of the project, the purpose, the idea, why are you doing it, the location where you have to implement that, what kind of durations are you going to keep in mind, then who are the end beneficiaries who are going to get the benefit out of it, what is the budget required to run the project, and funds requirement interval, project partners who are together to leverage the project. So the document checklist that one needs to keep in mind in the CSR evaluation would be organization name, address, phone number, email, website to be mentioned. The organizer is registered with Income Tax Authority for donation rebates. Copy of tax certification is provided. List of board of trustees is provided. Scope and area of work is mentioned, and brochures and other relevant details are available. So this was a basic thing, an introduction that one needs to know when you are indulging with the concepts of corporate social responsibility. So thanks for hearing me patiently. And now I would hand over to Mr. Advocate Ramarao-ji, where he will be talking about the amendments of the CSR. Over to you.
Yes, namaste. Good evening to all of you. Thank you, Arpita madam,
Thanks
for the brief review.
Advocate Ram.
For the brief review on CSR, and it was a great, splendid time to hear our chief guest share his great experience. So again, good evening to all of you. So as such, CSR is now talk of the town, household topic. And now I'll get into the crux of it, maybe in a very quick manner, so that we can at least handle some other issues today. Okay, so I'll be highlighting on the amendments of the law basically. Now, what was that which was voluntary now has become compulsory. So I'll get into my presentation. So please just guide me if I'm into it. Sir, you can see my presentation, Pradeep sir?
Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So it is a sort of revision. The parameters of CSR is very well known. The need is quite evident when we exploit, of the many reasons. The primary reason of industry, businesses are that since they utilize the resources of the planet, definitely there is a moral obligation to pay back to the planet, to the society, to the mankind, for all the resources that have been explored and exploited for profit making. And the parameters as per the law, that the way you have to pay back to the societies, instead of using on the turnover, paid up capital and all that, the best part of the third parameter is if an industry has made more than 5 crore profit, invariably 2% of it has to go in for paying back to the society, a simpler word, and that is known as mandated corporate social responsibility. In fact, I would say now it should be more voluntary rather than mandatory. People, rather businesses should also understand for all the huge exploring exploitation that has been done for purely profit making. No more damage should be continued that way. We should always set right things. So corporate spending is always good. So 2%, I always see it in a very big volume, and it runs the economy also. That is another best part of the thing. So the Companies Act, Section 135 promulgates about CSR, and Schedule 7 dictates all the terms. So that in the later sessions will go in great detail. There are many experts who will be dealing with the forms and other activities. Today, what I will do is, just go through the synopsis of the CSR amendments that have taken place in the year to 2021. So from April 1st, entities carrying out CSR activities are required to file with the central government an e-form, namely CSR1, to generate unique registration number. So since this conference doesn't restrict only to mere discussion, we will be going very much in detail how to go about with the forms. Today we'll have a glimpse view. It is something like a warming up session. Mandated again, I get back. There are 4 perfect legal organizations which can take up CSR activity. So the popular legal formats are NGOs, trusts, societies, and Section 8 companies. Okay, so nothing better than these entities, and the concept of one person social organization doesn't arise. So these are the 4 legal entities. So any entity that intends to take up CSR activity, so as per the most foremost amendment of the CSR policy and law for the year 2021, CSR1 has to be filed, and then the subsequent activities should take place. And second important point is to ensure transparency. The board of directors of the company shall mandatorily disclose the composition of CSR committee and CSR policy and projects approved by the board on their website for public access. This is very important part. See, if you don't disclose and just go ahead with a dominating point of view that I'm doing social service, there could be duplication of many projects. And I would say there should be a common public website where this duplication also should be corrected. If not, too many funds for the same project would be there. So this is a very good modification in the law. Then the third point is every company having average CSR obligation of 10 crores or more in the 3 immediate preceding financial years shall undertake impact assessment through an independent agency of their CSR projects having outlays of 1 crore. So this parameter is also very interesting since the volume of amount is large, and say 10 crore obligation for next 3 years does make an impact. So the impact assessment is very important. So we definitely have an opportunity. The stakeholders in this case would be professionals who are very conversant regarding assessing things and looking into various projects. So impact assessment statement is very important, and a very important opportunity also. An independent agency can be allocated this type of work. And the CSR projects having over 1 crore, definitely 1 crore is a huge amount to make a great impact on a particular aspect of social bearing nature. And the fourth point is the board shall ensure that the administrative overhead shall not exceed 5% of the total CSR expenditure of the company for the financial year. For this, I have a very, very, very serious suggestion. This should be increased to 15%. Let us say in this conference, we formulate one small modification and suggest to the government seeking that 5% is too small an amount. For the total amount of CSR fund that is being spent, 15% at least should go towards administrative expenses, because 5% is too small an amount. and it doesn't meet many of the administrative expenses. So this should be deliberated upon, and my proper suggestion that our discussion should conclude is we should make it 15%. And after all, again, that 15% is administrative expenses. It is nothing going into anybody's pockets. All the expenses have to be met. And I have a very important suggestion is, quite a decent stipend or honorarium should be paid to the participants who execute this project. We call it interns or social workers and all the other administrative experts whose services are sought for implementing the CSR project. And the fifth point is the CSR amount may be spent by a company for creation or acquisition of a capital asset, which can be held by the following three entities. Okay, this can be much more elaborated in the later stage. So this is just, as I again repeat, this is a synopsis of the major changes that have been mandated. Then mandatory transfer of unspent CSR amount is required. So now I go to the next slide, just a brief description about all that. So the procedure to file the form CSR, as I repeated, it will be in MCA portal and the form has to be filled. Okay, in the further sessions, we have experts who will take it, and repeatedly other experts will go into this CSR form 1, which is mandated. And I have already received many inquiries on this. What is the CSR form 1 and how this has to be taken up by the entities who are interested in taking up CSR. Okay. So the next slide is what activities qualify as CSR activities. Then as per the latest modification, research and development of new vaccines, medicines, medication, medical devices, which are very important for combating COVID-19, and overseas training of Indian sports personnel representing any state or union territory at national. Okay, sports has given importance. Yeah, so that is very important. These two are quite opposite to each other in their content. One is for health and another is for human health. So one takes care of physical, one takes care of internal health. Okay. Then according to the latest amendments, the following expenditure will not be included in the list of CSR activities. These three are very, very important. Adhere to contribution to political parties, no more accepted, not at all accepted. Activities benefiting employees of the company. This was very ticklish question. So in the later session, we can elaborate on this point. Then activities on sponsorship basis for delivering marketing benefits for its products and services. Obviously, this is claimed, this is ultimately ending to marketing. So these three areas are not to be considered as part of CSR activities. Okay. And the next slide is a question. What are the significant changes in CSR latest amendments updated till April 21? Okay. So Ministry of Corporate Affairs on 22nd January has come up with some modifications. So one is that impact assessment, then decriminalization of non-compliance. This was need of the hour. Many companies daily did complain for not complying to CSR. The previous law was very punishable for not complying. So decriminalization, so probably compounding. Then greater inclusion of international organizations is a very interesting part. Then provisions altering the guidelines for management of excess funds and surplus expenditures. So for this, this management of excess funds and surplus expenditure, I always feel, professionals and the institutions, stakeholders of the CSR activities should have a strong deliberation. These two should not have, spending amount perfectly well is very important, and surplus we have to really calculate well. If not, then this starts with, then we end up what you call manipulating the accounts. This shouldn't be there. So a lot of training sessions can be arranged for this one, this particular aspect, that is provisions altering the guidelines for management of excess funds and surplus expenditures. Okay. Then next is what all must a company's CSR policy include? The policy should be there. So I would say any business entity, why to stick on to that 5 crore profit, the basic reason for doing CSR. Every business entity has a moral obligation to a society. So every business entity, once it gets incorporated, I would always suggest all business entities should have a small CSR policy. So CSR policy, what should it contain? So list of CSR projects that are approved to be undertaken by the company, the banner of execution of such projects, then the details of utilization of funds for the projects, implementation schedules of the projects, monitoring and reporting mechanism for the projects, details of the impact assessment, if any, for the projects undertaken by the a company. So the parameters required for the policy definition, I would say, right from the educational institutions, I say every human being, should have a moral obligation towards the society. We have our own policy, like donating some amount, and as an individual we do it. So companies invariably has a policy. Now CSR companies policy parameters are fixed. Now these 6 parameters are very interesting. In fact, there won't be spillovers. So following this guidelines is very good. So company's CSR policy, as already mentioned. Then next is, what are the administrative overheads and what does the definition include? This is a very, very, very tricky part. Under the new rules, administrative overheads will only include expenses directly incurred by the company on general management and administration of CSR. Okay, this is very evident. Therefore, the expenses incurred by the company on designing, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation, the 4 pillars of any CSR projects: designing, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of a particular CSR project, will not be included as part of the administrative overheads, but as a CSR expenditure. Fine. The third one defines what is the exact meaning of CSR expenditure. Then again, very ticklish part, the board shall ensure that administrative overheads shall not exceed 5%. It should not be hand to mouth. No, there should be a very, very sufficient amount allowed for meeting the administrative and management costs. I strongly suggest it should be 15%. We'll have quite deliberations in the further sessions and come into a postulate so that we can give it as a suggestion. I repeat that. Then next is, what is the penalty for non-compliance to CSR rules and obligations? Okay, this should not be a discouraging factor. One should be alert. A significant departure from the erstwhile CSR policy, non-compliance to CSR rules and obligations, will no longer be treated as criminal offense. These will now be treated as civil wrongs. I mean, one should not be so negligent. When you have a moral binding that you have to pay back to the society, I wish this should not be the sort of punishing. It should be purely voluntary, and it should be बस जाना चाहिए हर बिजनेस और हर इंसान में कि हम इस धरती को वापस दे दें, हम जिससे फायदा लिए हैं. So okay, it is nice. Decriminalizing is a sort of encouragement. Then the next one is, what CSR related information does a company have to disclose? This is very important. Disclosure norms, composition of CSR committees, then the CSR policy, projects approved by the board. Fine. So that is disclosure norms. Then, has the impact assessment of a company CSR projects made mandatory in the new CSR amendment rules? And impact assessment is only mandatory for companies with CSR obligations of 10 crores Indian rupees or more of any, and all projects outlays of 1 crore or more. So the parameters are fixed again. So 10 crores and 1 crore. The impact assessment must be undertaken by an independent agency. And we have professionals role also here, probably national, international also. And what is an what you call international organization, and what CSR functions can it fulfill? This is always a ticklish issue, having international organizations, and it was always debatable. But now this is an encouraging point also. A company may engage international organization for designing, monitoring, and evaluation of CSR projects for capacity building. This is very important, of their own personnel for CSR. Then international organization means an organization notified by the central government as an international organization under Section 3 of United Nations Privileges and Immunities Act 1947. So it is good to have international associations to implement some of the best project experiences. Do share. It is as good as using in the profit making, the joint ventures, what we call here. I would say we help each other by sharing knowledge and experiences. And the next is, what is to be done with additional income being generated through a company CSR projects. So any surplus income being generated through a company CSR activities cannot form a part of the company's profit. The surplus shall be reinvested into the same project or shall be transferred to an unspent CSR account. This is a very, very typical what you call suggestion and aspect of any CSR. A CSR project started with welfare motive and suddenly starts becoming self-sufficient and generates money for itself. This is the aim. This is, in my point of view, this is the aim of it. A social project becoming a social enterprising project, then it becomes self-sustaining. Then I say it goes out of the preview of CSR. Then another project comes in. That is the best way to look into this particular provision and amendment. Okay. which again we will deal very technically by taking realistic examples. Then what happens if a company spends more than its required CSR expenditure? Any CSR expenditure that exceeds the required amount can be carried forward to the next 3 years. Fine, very simple. So can the company create or acquire any capital assets during its CSR expenditure? Very obvious fact. In fact, the CSR funds may be spent on creating or acquiring capital assets, although these capital assets cannot be held by the company. Obvious, the purpose for which the capital expenditure has been done is for towards the CSR project. They must be held by any one of the following entities. So Section 8 company, registered public trust or beneficiaries of the said project, public authorities. Here we should take some realistic examples to comprehend this type of amendment, and it is obvious that any project will definitely start garnering capital assets. Then again comes after the project, what do we do with the capital assets? Okay. So is there any provision for projects that go on for longer than 1 year in the new CSR? Yes, the new concept of ongoing project has been added to the rule. Ongoing project means a multi-year project undertaken by a company in fulfillment of its CSR obligation, having timelines not exceeding 3 years. This is very important. So ongoing project, one key note, and next is 3 years. So CSR projects, the time limit, the limitation has already been defined here, 3 years. These can include projects that were initially not multi-year projects, but were extended based on reasonable justification. Obviously, if not, there could be a lot of mischief in this extension. So that impact assessment plays a big role. Defining the projects is also very important. Then what is utilization certificate? So utilization certificate must now be presented by the CFO to the board, certifying that all the funds allocated by the board has been utilized in a manner approved by the board. So I thought if there is time, we can go through the gazette notification wherein the forms are also exhibiting. That depends on the time available for me here. Then, yeah, that's it. That is the simple amendments. Now I'll do one thing. I'll just go into the gazette notification so that it will give a brighter insight of what exactly is that, So MCA notification is this. So whatever I have shown in the PowerPoint in this presentation is as mentioned in this gazette. This is to point out. So we are just picking up the crucial points and putting up. So at the final end of this gazette notification are the forms for various purposes. So a brief outline on CSR policy of the company. So a form is ready-made. So we don't have to invent a form. It is already provided. Then composition of CSR committee is already given. So the forms are best available. So we need not be confused. We take this as a de facto standard and go ahead with it. So that's about the various amendments that have taken place. Yes, sir. So that's a brief overlook. A lot of deliberations can be done. Some points are debatable, and from my point, 5% is very much debatable without increasing that. Management and administrative expenses to the level of 15%. So we should definitely make a strong representation. If not, the amendments are very friendly. The best part of the amendment was no more severe punishment for not complying to CSR. I would say that should not be the reason. You should love to pay back to the society. I mean, that type of moral binding should be inculcated amongst all businesses. The moment we decide to do business, we should remember that we are exploiting resources. We have to pay back to the society. So maybe we should have for that, the mindset changing right from the educational institutions. Catch them young and make them aware about what CSR is. If not, we already have the concept of CSR within our day-to-day practices. We donate, we share. If you have excess food, we give it away. If you have old clothes, we give it away. We are already doing CSR. So it is ingrained in your Indian human nature. So that's it, Pradeep sir. So a brief outlook about the amendments. In the later sessions, we'll have a lot of deliberations. We have plenty of experts, clause by clause, word by word. We can elaborate, and the whole forms can be opened up, and we can discuss how the inputs, so that our stakeholders never have confusion. In fact, so that's it, Pradeep sir. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share my views in a nutshell. So not able to hear you, sir. You unmute yourself.
Ramaraji, thanks for this, and I request you to close your sharing actually. Thank you. Thanks, Ramaraji. I need to take how the myths and of course how this particular CSR is and what all the CSR laws are. Not taking much time. I will take some of the consideration from Ramaraji's point only. So Ramaraji conveyed that there will be a capital asset acquisition through the CSR funding also. But what exactly the case was happening actually in around CSR projects, whatever the acquisition is going around for CSR, the complete acquisition is being done through all the corporates, and the project beneficiaries or the implementing agencies were not getting all those assets. And because of this only, this amendment comes in, that whatever is to be purchased as a capital asset, that is to be passed on towards the implementing body, that is Section 8 companies, trust and NGOs and the societies. Even more than that, it is to be gone through as per the procurement. That is also being there. And let me give you one more some more myths about the CSR. Of course, the broader form of CSR law is being presented by Ramaraji, but there are certain still myths out there. Let me give you the presentation on those myths. I will be taking the as per the point wise what all the myths are there. We all know that there is a guideline and notification being given by Government of India, and each one of us are going to follow those guidelines. But there are certain myths around. Let me take one of the myths which has been across all the NGOs are that whatever they are doing is coming under the CSR. Of course, the CSR comes into the picture when you are drawing any of the fund through the corporates. It's never been that if you are doing anything, thing which is being driven through the donations, that is coming under CSR. No, CSR is coming only and only when you are drawing any of the funding through the any of the corporates. That is why this is corporate social responsibility. Who all are the applicable corporates, that has been given as an answer to that FAQ. What is that particular nomenclature is, who all are actually having a net worth of 500 crores of money or turnover of rupees 1,000 crore in a year or net profit of rupees 5 crore. So these will be the eligible entities, those who will be funding that particular CSR project. And these entities will be actually giving it towards the implementing bodies, that is NGOs, trust and Section 8. That is how this particular myth, why I'm sharing the myths around this particular CSR, because everyone is talking about the CSR for any of the activity. It's not like such. So this is the clear picture. Once you are drawing something, some amount, some fund towards from the corporate, and then you are actually doing the project, that particular project, that is being called as a CSR. Next, coming to, I'm not taking the complete setup of the this particular FAQ being said by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, but some of the things which I am actually covering it here. Usually, when we talk about the CSR, people used to say that at least 3 years need to work, and then the CSR applicability is there. But this is not the case with the corporates. This is the case for the NGOs, and of course, not for the NGOs also. What we are doing is, corporates are looking out the functionaries of the NGOs and the Section 8 companies for past 3 years. That is their actually valuation criteria. That is corporate's evaluation criteria, and that is why we are looking for 3 years. But it is for NGOs and it is for Section 8 companies. But if I talk about the corporate companies, it is not applicable for them. It is very well written in this particular MCA guideline that if company has completed 3 financial years since its output, but it satisfies any of the criteria mentioned in Section 1351, CSR provisions spending of at least 2% of the net profit made during immediately preceding financial years are applicable. So if a company is incorporated 2018 and 19, are eligible to criteria as per the eligibility criteria, whatever the eligibility criteria of those things. So it is applicable. It is applicable for corporates also. Now, next point is, if I go to, I was going towards these pointers, which is being said by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and I was looking out for this. That is 2.6. 2.6 about there is no direct role. There is no direct role of this thing, government of India. What exactly is happening here in CSR is, whenever we talk about the CSR, MCA is actually heading those particular segment of all the corporates. Whatever is being rolled out towards the CSR, government is nowhere in the picture, of course, but it's a board-driven activity. It's a corporate-driven activity. So corporates need to go through the compliance, and there is no such government regulatory which is working on that. They need to suffice their compliances, and as per the compliances, Ministry of Corporate Affairs are coming into the picture. So that is the point number 2.6. Now I come for point number 3.1. If I take the case of people are asking what can be the segment, or when we are taking about this particular CSR expenditure, what is that point of consideration for profit? How we are going to evaluate that particular profit? The profit is always before the taxes. It is never taken into consideration after the taxes. So remember, whenever we are talking about the CSR expenditure or CSR profit, that we are talking about before tax, not after the taxes. So point number 3.1. Point number 3.2, which actually Ramarao was discussing on more and more, that was for administration overhead, that is 5%. But here I would like to give some insight on that, that if the projects are, if you see, this has been example given by Ministry of Corporate Affairs here in this particular segment, that if the particular CSR project is working towards the school, any of the education related project, then the 5% overhead will be taken as per this. The salary and training for the employees working in the CSR division of a company will be considered as an admin overhead, but the salary of school teachers or other staff for education related CSR projects shall be covered under education project cost. So it means once we are talking about the education related projects, the bylines for taking the consideration for all this costing goes with this, and of course we should go for formulating that all the projects of the CSR shall go with this. How the CSR for the education is going, why not to go with other projects for the same? If we are talking about the CSR funding, and if we are talking about the enhancement of that 5% overhead to that particular towards 15% or 10%, whatever. So this can be actually one good example where we are talking about, even Ministry of Corporate Affairs is also giving the same, that if you are going towards the admin expenditure, this can be the segmentation how we can actually go for CSR projects. Now going towards this is how the myth actually I am talking about, because more and more we are talking about that. Okay, admin overhead, it means it goes to 5% of that, but this can be actually taken into consideration, and this can be proposed in later to the government also and to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. If we consider the this thing costing towards staff cost for education project, why not for other projects? So now I'm moving on towards 3.11. I took why I'm taking about these things are more and more people are talking about this. Once we talk about the CSR project, is there any tax benefit doing under CSR? Government of India or Ministry of Corporate Affairs has clarified very nicely that no specific tax exemption has been extended to CSR expenditure. More or less, the GST which we are talking about, there is so much confusion around that whether NGOs should go for GST registration or section. Of course, they are the company in the company formation, they are going for it. But NGOs and trust, and they are still in dilemma whether to go for GST taxation registration or not. But one thing I need to actually mention here: suppose any good is coming in or going out, that comes under GST. This much I can very well assure you that for these reasons, all the NGOs has to go for GST registration. Other compliances and other sessions are there, which need to be actually from where you can actually more get the edge, the knowledge onto those things. I'm talking just the myths of those CSR, whatever the myths are there. Now coming to this thing, the very fresh CSR 1 form, which Government of India and of course Ministry of Corporate Affairs has rolled out. There is a misconcept between that this thing, CSR 1 form. The misconcept is, if I am being incorporated in the year of in the month of Jan, and I'm going to do the project later on after March or so, April or so, I should go for this CSR 1 form? The reason, the answer given by Ministry of Corporate Affairs is, if you are going to do any of the CSR activity, so beforehand you have to go for CSR form 1. If you are not in possession of CSR form 1, you will not be eligible to take any of the CSR activity. So this is how the myths of 5.7. And the last, but of course, later on, we will be discussing in each of the sessions during the conference by our so many eminent speakers also regarding the myths of the CSR. Project-based impact assessment we are doing. This is a new form where we are talking about. Of course, the impact assessment is to be done for all the projects which are over and above 1 crore of budget. And of course, 10 crore average amount is there, which has been there for CSR. But one more thing is into the addition of this particular CSR guidelines given by corporate affairs, that all the impact assessments will be on the project basis. Suppose we are doing a 3-month project for one of the that particular, some of the organization is doing 3 months project or 6 months project, and then the 1 year project. So for each of the projects, they have to go for the impact assessment independently and separately. This is very much cleared by Government of India in this MCA guidelines, which has been just now very refreshed, just 2 days back or 3 days back they have given. So that is how the myths and all I have covered up. Whatever the guidance has been given and whatever the things are coming up once we are doing. And that is why I covered these things to you all. There were some, I think, 5 to 6 points only into that. But this needs to be clarified before moving ahead for all the sessions. Thanks to all listening patiently for this. And I will be sharing the video also, and I will be sharing this particular documents also regarding the CSR to all of you, but by the end of our 10 days conference, not before that. Moving ahead, of course, if anyone is having any QA or any suggestions on that, they can talk on. And Arpita ji, over to you then.
Thanks, Pradeep ji. I'm sure our viewers
to switch on your videos at least, so that we can have the pick also. By the time we can have a discussion, and by the time we can have a pick also.
So I'm sure all my dear viewers, you might have some idea of the concept of the CSR. So in a nutshell, I must say, it is a voluntary instrument, but must be implemented reliably so that it fosters trust and confidence among its all stakeholders. And as I said, that we are very grateful to all our enablers and collaborators who have joined us for this National CSR Conference. So one needs to be grateful for that, as gratitude unlocks the fullness of life and it turns what we have into enough and more. So hereby, I would love to acknowledge our partners enablers. So the partners and enablers for our National CSR Conference are Chaitanya Drishti Foundation, Voice It Out, Navya, Preetak Foundation, UVACC, SWAN, and SDV Warriors. Thanks for having faith in us, and the collaborators for this event are Prakramika Institute, Mindcube Multinational Services, Hasna Foundation, Impulsive, SAD, and YouTube Bay. And now I would request Pradeep ji to have a closing statement. Over to you, Pradeep ji.
Thank you, Arpita ji. And I request all those who are present here, if you have any doubts or if you have any suggestions, please put on the board, because that is more essential. We are into the conference so that we can discuss on how to go ahead for this CSR implementation, and of course, what are all the pointers which we can discuss. If anyone is having, please switch on your mic and do share with us.
Even I would request, if people are not comfortable in saying right now, they can email us also, Pradeep ji, right? Even they can, even they can email us.
They can email us. Each and everyone is having our email ID, so you can share your email ID too, where we can actually respond. Our professionals are there. We all can respond on that. Tomorrow, our session will be on need assessment, and Dr. Sivani and Ms. Meghna will be actually taking on that particular session. And thanks for all to you all, our speakers, our learning partners, those who are into this 10 days of CSR conference. I'm really grateful for each one of you, and of course also some of our learning partners, those who are there joined as individual learning partners. So thanks. I'm ending up for the day, and thank you to all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, Meghna ji, would you like to convey something?
No, sir. Looking forward to tomorrow's interaction.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.